The night they dragged me out of that house like I was a thief, I remember thinking, so this is how my story ends. The gate slammed behind me, my bag hit the ground, and the woman I'd been loyal to for 10 months turned her back without even asking for my side. Let me ask you something. If the people you give your whole life to decide you're the villain, where do you go to prove you're not? My name is Joy, and this is the story of how one lie almost destroyed me, how one stranger refused to step over me, and how that choice changed everything. I'm not here to give a speech. I'm not a saint. I'm not here to pretend I never doubted or never got angry. I'm just going to tell you exactly what happened, the way it played out, the way it felt in my bones, so you can decide for yourself if you think it was fair. I was 22 working as a live-in maid in Lagos. Not the kind of maid you see in commercials with matching uniforms and soft background music. I wore the same faded wrapper, the same stretched-out blouse, my cheap slippers that slapped the tiles when I walked. The Sawney residence looked perfect from the outside. Cream-painted duplex, clean driveway, flowers by the gate, quiet estate with rules about noise and parking. It looked safe. But inside, the air was tight, like everyone was holding something in. My day started before the sun even thought about rising. Around 4:30, I'd slip out of that cramped little room in the back, tie my scarf, and start. Sweep, mop, scrub, wash, dishes, press uniforms, pack school bags, cook breakfast, check the water tank, lay out madam's clothes, get the kids ready. No complaining, no attitude. My mother always told me, when you're in someone else's house, your tears belong to the walls, not to your tongue. So I swallowed the tears. I swallowed the tired. I swallowed the way people talked over me like I didn't exist. Why did I endure it? Simple. My mom. Diabetes had taken over her body. Medication, insulin checkups. That was my salary. There was no extra, no backup, no savings. If I lost my job, I didn't just lose a bed and a plate of rice, I put her life on the line. You know what I mean? When it's about your mother, there's a level of humiliation you tell yourself you can tolerate just to keep her breathing. My Madame Agnes was one of those women who looked like she always knew what time it was without checking. Perfect suits, pressed hair, high heels that clicked like a metronome. She worked at a bank and treated everything like a transaction, including people. She wasn't the type to beat me or throw things. She was worse in a quieter way. If everything was perfect, I was invisible. If one thing was off, my name came out like an accusation. I learned to read her mood from the sound of her keys in the lock. Her husband Femi was the opposite. He stayed home most of the time. Said he did online business and drop shipping. I don't know what he was dropping, but I know he was always on the couch or in his upstairs study laptop, open TV on phone, ringing glass in his hand. And I know his eyes moved more than his body. He liked to watch. I felt it before I admitted it. At first, I convinced myself I was imagining things. Because it's easier to tell yourself you're paranoid than to admit you're a target with no power. But then the lingering looks stayed too long. The fake smiles, the accidental run-ins, calling my name when he could easily do something himself, watching me when I bent to pick something. I could feel his attention on my skin like oil. The first time he really crossed the line, I was cleaning the bookshelf in the hallway, crouched down, trying to get the dust from the bottom. I heard him behind me. His voice dropped low, too familiar, too slow. He said something about the way I bent about my body, about how I was too pretty to just be a maid. My heart punched against my ribs. My hand shook. I didn't answer. I just got up, walked away, pretended I didn't understand. But I understood perfectly. Here's where it started to twist. From that day, I tried to avoid him. Never stay alone with him. If he called from upstairs, I answered from downstairs. I wrapped my cloth higher, buttoned my blouse up to my neck if I had to enter a room where he was sitting. I moved faster, kept my eyes down, tried to disappear in the house I cleaned. But the more I shrank, the bolder he got. That is how it usually goes. He would wait until Agnes left for work. Then he'd drift around wherever I was. Lean against the doorframe, stare. Make comments in those half-joking, half-serious tones men use when they want you to object, so they can laugh and call you dramatic. I kept swallowing it, thinking, just get through the month, send money to mom, keep quiet. In front of his wife, he flipped. Suddenly I was slow, careless, not that good. He would complain about my food, tell her I didn't clean well enough. He made sure I always looked like a problem, so if anything ever came up, his story would already be believable. Smart, right ugly, but smart. One night I was serving their dinner, moving around them like a shadow, when I heard Agnes telling a friend on the phone, laughing, "Oh, Femi might be lazy, but that man is loyal. He can't stand all these desperate girls." I swear to you, my hand almost let the tray fall. Loyal. If only she knew how he watched her Maid like a hawk. That night in my small room, staring at the ceiling fan wobbling above me, I broke my mother's rule and let my thoughts talk. Should I tell her first? Should I go to Agnes before he twists it? But then I pictured my mom, coughing, weak, waiting for me to send her medicine money. I pictured myself jobless, labeled a troublemaker. Do bosses hire maids with a story? You already know the answer. Silence can feel like protection at first. Then it turns into a trap. The day everything exploded started normal. I woke up early, did my chores, prepared breakfast. But there was a heaviness in my chest, like my body knew before my mind did. Agnes was home that morning, sitting stiffly on the couch, still in her work clothes, like she hadn't decided whether she was staying or leaving. That was strange. She usually rushed out. I carried in the breakfast tray, trying not to stare. Then Femi walked in with this serious, fake, hurt face I had never seen before. The kind of face people use when they're about to lie and want you to feel sorry for them. "Agnes," he said slowly, "I have to tell you something about this girl." My throat closed. I'm telling you, I knew right then. I tried to speak first. "Madam, please, I need to." She held up a hand without even looking at me. Let my husband finish. He went into his performance, said I had been dressing suggestively, said I had been testing his boundaries, said he had tried to ignore me out of respect for his marriage, that he couldn't stay silent anymore because I had become a risk in the house. He sprinkled in concern, disappointment, moral vocabulary. It was a well-rehearsed script, and he knew exactly which words a wife like Agnes would respond to. I couldn't stay quiet. "Madam, that's not true. He's the one who—" "Shut up," she snapped, turning on me like I was a dog barking during a meeting. "I know my husband. He would never disgrace himself with a maid. You think you can come into my home and try this nonsense? Please listen to me. He has been following me, touching, threatening." I was scared. She cut me off again. "If this was true, why didn't you talk earlier? You wait until he speaks. Then suddenly you remember. Shame on you." Right there in that living room, my fear turned to something sharper. Not aggression exactly, just this heavy knowledge. Nothing I said would matter. He had already built his case. I was young. I was poor. I was replaceable. She called the guards. They grabbed my arm, pulled me toward the door. I dropped to my knees. I begged. Not for dignity. I had none left at that point. For my mother. "Please, madam, my mother is sick. My salary, I send it to her. Please don't do this. Just hear me." She didn't look back. "Take her out," she said. "I don't want to see her in this compound again." The gate opened. They threw my small bag out. The gate slammed in my face so hard it sounded like the end of a chapter. If it were you, what would you have done in that moment? I stood there shaking barefoot on the concrete, looking at that neat house I had kept shining for months. Cars drove by outside the estate. People walked their dogs. Life carried on. Inside that gate, they had already moved on from me. I picked up my bag and walked away because there was nothing else to do. I tried. One security man asked if I could sit near his post till morning. He waved me off. Nobody wants to be part of someone else's drama. I followed the road until I found an old shop front with half its shutter down. I squeezed under, sat on the dusty concrete. It smelled like urine and metal and old paper. It wasn't safety, but at least it wasn't the open street. That night I cried like I hadn't allowed myself to cry in months. Not those quiet tears into a pillow. Real broken sounds. For my mom. For the fact that one man's lie weighed more than my whole life of trying to be good. For all the times I should have spoken sooner and didn't. For all the people who would hear this story and still say, maybe she was asking for it. At some point, I drifted in and out of sleep, jumping at every noise. By 5 a.m., Lagos was waking up. Voices, horns, footsteps. I rubbed my face, checked my money. It was embarrassing how fast I could count it. Not enough for transport to my mother's town. Not enough for a room. Not enough for anything. So I walked. My legs were heavy. My clothes smelled like the floor. I had slept on. My head throbbed. I walked along the main road trying to think of a plan, any plan. Call my mother. With what phone credit, tell her what, that her daughter, the one she was proud of, had been thrown out like trash. I couldn't do it. I didn't see the SUV at first. I stepped off the sidewalk into the service lane without looking properly. All I heard was a loud horn and tires screaming, burning rubber. A black SUV stopped so close I felt the heat from the engine. My heart almost climbed out of my chest. The driver's door slammed. A man in a crisp shirt and clean shoes stormed toward me. Are you crazy? Do you want to die? Are you blind? His voice hit me like stones, but I was too tired to react. I just stood there, clutching my bag, staring at the ground. Then he got close enough to really see me. He saw the dust, the tear marks, the swollen eyes, the cheap bag, the way my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Something in his face shifted. His anger dropped like it had never belonged there. Hey, he said again, softer. Hey, are you all right? I wanted to say yes just to get away. Instead, my mouth betrayed me. No, I whispered. I'm not. That was the first honest thing I'd said out loud in a long time. He looked around, then back at me. This part is important, because a lot of men in his position would have shrugged, gotten back in the car, and driven off. Or worse, tried to take advantage. He didn't do either. Come, he said gently, pointing toward a small cafe ahead. Let me get you some water. You look like you're about to fall down. Now, after what I'd just been through, a strange man offering help was not comforting. It sounded like step one into another trap. But my legs felt like noodles, my head spun, and something about the way he kept his distance, didn't touch me, didn't lower his eyes in that hungry way, made me follow. We sat at a plastic table. He ordered bottled water and hot tea. He introduced himself. Chaik, asked my name. I said Joy, and he repeated it like he was tasting the word, not mocking, just thoughtful. You don't look very joyful this morning, he said with a small, sad smile. That was it. The dam broke. I told him everything. The harassment, the threats, the lie, the humiliation, the shop floor, my mother. I kept apologizing in between. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying all this, you don't know me. He shook his head lightly. Don't be sorry, he said. Sometimes you just need one person to hear you. He didn't interrupt. He didn't question, what were you wearing? Didn't ask, why didn't you talk earlier? He didn't ask what I did to provoke it. He just listened like my pain was something worth his time. When I finished, I stared at the table, feeling exposed. He tapped the bottle lightly with his finger. "What if," he said slowly, "for today you let someone help you?" I laughed a little bitter. "Why, so I can owe you?" He reached for his wallet, pulled out an ID, placed it where I could see it. Name Photo Company, CO Holdings. He looked like somebody important. The kind you don't expect to meet outside a dusty cafe at 7 in the morning. "I won't touch you. I won't ask anything from you. Let me take you somewhere safe. You can shower, you can sleep, you can eat. After that, you decide what's next. If you want to leave, you leave. If it were you sitting there with nothing, would you say yes or no?" I stared at him, trying to see the trick. He didn't rush me, didn't talk over me, didn't move closer. Finally, I nodded. Not because I trusted him fully, but because I had run out of options, and somehow his eyes didn't look like Femi's. He drove. At one point, instead of opening the front passenger door, he opened the back. "You can sit here," he said. That small detail, giving me space, made my shoulders drop a little. We pulled up to a gated compound. The security guys saw him and opened up immediately. Inside was a house that looked like magazines. Green lawns, fountain big windows. Definitely not my world. A middle-aged woman came out, apron on, kind eyes. "Auntie Ife," he called her. "Please take care of her. She needs food, a bath, and rest. Put her in the rose room." Did you catch that? He left me in another woman's care. Another small choice that mattered. In the rose room, I saw a clean bed, soft towels, a bathroom with hot water. When the water hit my skin, all the dirt of the night, and the house, and the shame started to slide off. I cried in the shower, but for the first time in months, the crying felt like release, not punishment. I came out to a plate of hot food. Plantain rice stew. I ate slowly, like if I rushed it would disappear. Auntie Ife smiled. "You are safe here," she said. "Rest." I waited for the catch. It didn't come that day. Later, Chaiki knocked on the door, asked if he could come in. He sat on a chair, not on the bed, kept his hands to himself. "I want to explain who I am," he said. "So you know this help is not a joke." He showed me another ID. This one stunned me more than everything else. His full name. His title. Son of the President. I stared at him, then at the card, then back. "I had no idea," I stammered. "I'm so sorry, He shook his head. "You don't have to be sorry for not knowing me. Actually, it's nice." I was confused. "But why help me?" He leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped, and for the first time I saw something cracked under all that composure. "Because I know what it feels like to break quietly," he said. "A long time ago, when I was in a dark place, someone I barely knew helped me and didn't want anything back. She didn't care about my name, just that I was human. I promised God and myself that if I ever had the chance, I would do that for someone else. He told me to sleep, said tomorrow we start something new. I thought he meant maybe new clothes, a little money for transport home, something small. I was wrong. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind." The next morning after breakfast, Auntie Ife handed me a simple peach dress. I put it on, brushed my hair for the first time in what felt like years, and went down to the study. Chike was standing by the window, looking out at the garden. He turned, smiled. "Good morning, Joy." "Good morning, sir." "Let's drop the sir," he said. "Just Chike." He handed me a black folder. "Open it." Inside on the first page was my name. My full name. Under it, registration papers for a business. Joyful Bites, Catering and Events. On the next page, a document for a business bank account. Then a lease agreement for a small shop space in town. I felt the room tilt. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Yesterday," he said calmly, You mentioned you love cooking. That your dream, if life was different, was to open a small place, hire girls like you, feed people with good food made from a clean heart. So I made a few calls. He told me there was $100,000 deposited to start. He had arranged a consultant to help with branding, menu staff, all of it. Everything in my name, legally mine. That's the twist. I went from being labeled a homewrecker, with nothing, to owning a registered business and a shop. Not as payment for anything, not as hush money, but as a statement that I was more than what they tried to reduce me to. I started crying, shaking my head. This is too much. I can't accept this. I don't even know how to thank you. He shook his head back gently. It's not too much. They took something from you they had no right to touch. Your dignity, your security. This won't fix everything, but it's a start. I don't want thanks. I want you to build something that proves they were wrong about you. Then he handed me a small velvet box. Inside was a simple silver pendant in the shape of a dove. He stood behind me, fastened it around my neck, careful not to make it weird. This is your reminder, he said softly. Freedom, hope. When it feels like you're slipping back into that night, touch it and remember your story didn't end at their gate. Only one thing I ask in return, he added. One day when you are strong enough, find someone else who is where you were and help her without asking what she can do for you. Yeah, that happened. A few weeks later, I was standing in front of a small shop as workers mounted a sign, Joyful Bites, Homemade Goodness, Heart-Made Dreams. The sun was warm, my hands were shaking, my dove pendant rested over a clean dress that I bought myself. Inside, 2 young women wiped tables, another hovered over a pot, while I showed her how to get the pepper level right. Every girl I hired had a story. Fired unfairly, blamed for what men did, laughed at when they tried to speak up. The world had treated them like they were disposable. In my shop, they were staff, team, family. I kept Chike's business card in my Bible like proof that miracles sometimes come with letterhead. One evening, I was scrolling through the news on my phone after closing. I saw his face on a headline, President's son, Chike Odanaka, launches multi-million-dollar tech hub. There he was in his sharp suit, cameras all around. It hit me again that the man who chose to stop for a dusty, broken girl by the roadside could have just driven past, and no one would have blamed him. A few days later, a courier brought a letter. No return address, just my name. Inside, in his handwriting, you've done exactly what I knew you would do. I am proud of you. Not for the shop, but for the women you've brought in. The dove is a promise. When you least expect it, I'll come by not as a stranger, but as a friend. Until then, keep flying. See, I pressed that letter to my chest and cried again. This time it wasn't fear. It was gratitude and something fiercer. The feeling of finally owning my story. One morning I looked out of the shop window and saw a girl walking by with a tray of oranges. Barefoot eyes, tired shoulders tense. I knew that look. The look of someone who has been told she's nothing so many times she started to believe it. I stepped outside. Hey, are you hungry? I asked. She looked surprised, like she wasn't used to being seen. Yes, Ma. Come in, I said, pushing the door open. You're safe here. The pendant around my neck caught the light. In that moment, I understood something very clearly. The greatest part of what Chike gave me wasn't the money or the papers. It was the power to change the ending for someone else. Now let me ask you, watching this, listening to this, do you think what Agnes did was just blind trust in her husband? Or was it easier for her to blame the maid than to face the truth of the man she married? Do you think it's fair that in so many homes, the word of a wealthy husband has more weight than the tears of a poor girl who has everything to lose? If it were you in that living room that morning, whose side would you have taken? My story ended in a way that feels like justice, at least for me. I got a new start. My mother got her medicine. Other girls got jobs. My name got restored in my own eyes. But let's be real, most girls like me don't meet a billionaire with a conscience. Most of them meet more femi, more slammed gates, more people saying, "Why didn't you tell us earlier," while punishing them for speaking at all. That's the part I want you to wrestle with. We praise stories with happy endings, but we rarely ask what systems made the horror possible in the first place. Why is it so easy to believe a man in a clean shirt, and so hard to believe a girl in a faded wrapper? Why do we default to, "She must have tempted him," instead of, "He should have had self-control"? So I'm leaving you with this. Do you think people like Femi should face public consequences when they lie like this, or is private regret enough? If you've ever fired, judged, or gossiped about someone based on one side of a story, would you handle it differently after hearing this? And if you have your own joy moment, a time you were punished for telling the truth or scared into silence, what helped you survive? I want you to tell me. Argue with me if you need to. Tell me if you think I should have shouted earlier. Tell me if you think Chicky did too much or not enough. Tell me if you've seen this type of injustice where you live. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to remember their value isn't decided by someone else's lie. Hit like if it made you feel something. Subscribe. If you want more true, messy, complicated stories like this, stories that don't just entertain, but hold up a mirror. And if you've ever been on the floor of your own abandoned shop, feeling like your life ended, I want you to hear this clearly before you scroll away. It might just be the night before your beginning.